Listen to me now, and listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you will separate the man who rises from the man who remains broken. It will mark the line between those who command their destiny and those who beg the world for scraps. You think you need others to succeed. You think you need approval, validation, a team behind you. But I tell you this with absolute certainty. The greatest victories are forged in solitude. The most powerful men who ever walked this earth learned to win alone first. And if you cannot win alone, you will never truly win at all. For too long, you have been taught to fear being alone. You've been conditioned to believe that isolation is punishment, that solitude means failure. But the masters knew differently. Carnegie built his empire in silence. Edison worked through the night when no one believed in him. Ford ignored the mockery and built anyway. Lincoln endured loneliness that would have crushed weaker men. They understood what the masses never will. Solitude is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It is the sacred space where average dies and excellence is born. When you are alone, you are forced to face the one person you've been running from all your life, yourself. No distractions, no excuses, no one to blame. Just you and the truth about who you really are. And that truth, my friend, is either your liberation or your condemnation. Most men cannot bear it. They run back to the crowd, back to the noise, back to the comfort of mediocrity disguised as companionship. But you, if you have the courage to stay in that silence, if you have the strength to face yourself without flinching, you will discover something extraordinary. You will find a power within you that needs no permission, seeks no approval, and bows to no circumstance. The world does not respect noise. It respects results. And results are born in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when there is no applause to fuel your ego. That is where real work is done. That is where champions are made, not in the spotlight, but in the darkness before dawn, not on the stage, but in the training room. Not when others are watching, but when you are completely, utterly, devastatingly alone.
Before we continue, I want to mention that this Napoleon Hill message is brought to you by this channel, Napoleon Hill Blueprints. If you're finding value here, we'd greatly appreciate it if you'd take a moment to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you're notified when we upload tomorrow's new message.
Isolation is not a weakness. Let me say that again so it burns into your consciousness. Isolation is not a weakness. It is the furnace where real strength is forged. It is the battlefield where warriors are made and pretenders are exposed. When you are alone, there is no mask left to wear, no performance to give, no audience to impress. It is just you, stripped bare of all pretense, facing the raw truth of your own capabilities and limitations. Most people fear this place because it is uncomfortable. It forces them to confront their laziness, their excuses, their lack of discipline. It exposes every weakness they've been hiding behind the noise of daily life. They cannot bear to see themselves as they truly are, so they run. They seek company not for connection, but for distraction. They surround themselves with people not to grow stronger, but to avoid growing at all. But understand this, every great achievement in human history began with a person standing alone. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every revolution started with someone who dared to walk away from the crowd and face the wilderness of their own thoughts. Moses climbed the mountain alone. Buddha sat under the tree alone. Jesus went into the desert alone. Why? Because transformation requires isolation. Growth demands solitude. Power is born in silence. When you walk alone, you stop performing for others and start performing for your destiny. You stop moving based on what people think and start moving based on what you know to be true. You stop seeking motivation from external sources and start generating it from within. This is where real power begins. Power that doesn't need validation. Power that doesn't crumble when others doubt you. Power that cannot be taken away because it was never given by anyone else. The man who learns to thrive in isolation becomes dangerous, not to others, but to his own limitations. He becomes a force that cannot be stopped by rejection, cannot be slowed by criticism, cannot be deterred by loneliness. Why? Because he has already faced the worst enemy he will ever encounter, himself. And he has won that battle. Once you have conquered yourself, the world has nothing left to threaten you with. Think about this carefully. When you are surrounded by people, you are influenced by their energy, their doubts, their limitations. You absorb their fears without realizing it. You dim your light to make them comfortable. You lower your standards to fit in. You compromise your vision to maintain peace. But when you are alone, none of that applies. You can think clearly. You can dream without limitation. You can build without compromise. You can become who you were meant to be without apology. I have seen men waste decades of their lives because they were afraid to be alone. They stayed in relationships that drained them. They kept friends who doubted them. They remained in environments that suffocated their potential, all because they feared the silence. They feared looking in the mirror and seeing the truth about their wasted years, their unfulfilled potential, their broken promises to themselves. But the man who embraces isolation, who walks into that silence with courage, who faces himself without running, that man emerges transformed. He comes out of that crucible with clarity of purpose, strength of character, and an unshakable belief in his own power. He no longer needs the crowd to feel alive. He no longer needs applause to keep moving. He has found something far more powerful: self-reliance. Isolation teaches you that you are enough, not in some feel-good superficial way, but in the deepest, most profound sense. You learn that you have within you everything you need to succeed. You discover that your mind is more powerful than you ever imagined. You realize that your will, when properly directed, can overcome any obstacle. You understand that the only approval you truly need is your own. This is the first great lesson of walking alone. You must learn to be your own source of strength, not sometimes, not when convenient, always. You must build your foundation so strong that no storm can shake it. You must develop your discipline so deep that no temptation can break it. You must forge your belief so solid that no criticism can crack it. When you can stand alone without fear, when you can move forward without support, when you can believe in yourself when no one else does, you become unstoppable. The world has no defense against a man who needs nothing from it. The man who can win alone has already won the only battle that truly matters, the battle with himself. Now that you understand the power of isolation, let me tell you about its greatest gift: discipline. Real discipline, not the kind that appears when others are watching, but the kind that shows up in the dark when no one will ever know if you quit. That is where true strength is built. When you are alone, discipline becomes your only friend. There is no one to motivate you, no one to hold you accountable, no one to push you forward. If you are going to move, it must come from within. If you are going to grow, it must be by your own choice. If you are going to succeed, it must be through your own unwavering commitment to excellence. This is where most people fail. They rely on external motivation. They need someone to encourage them, to remind them of their goals, to celebrate their small victories. But what happens when that person is gone? What happens when the crowd stops cheering? What happens when you are alone with your dreams and no one is there to validate them? The weak collapse, the strong continue. Because the strong have built discipline that lives independent of applause. Discipline in solitude means waking up at the same time every day, even when no one will know if you sleep in. It means training your body when you could rest. It means sharpening your mind when you could scroll mindlessly. It means building your future when you could waste time on pleasure. This is not about being harsh with yourself. This is about respecting yourself enough to keep your promises, especially when breaking them is easy. I want you to understand something profound. Every time you act with discipline when no one is watching, you are building trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when there's no immediate reward, you are proving to yourself that your word means something, that you are someone who can be relied upon, that you are a person of integrity. This self-trust is the foundation of all confidence. Real confidence doesn't come from what others think of you. It comes from what you think of yourself. and what you think of yourself is determined by your actions when you are alone. The man who keeps his promises to himself, who honors his commitments even in private, that man walks with a quiet power that cannot be faked. Discipline in solitude also means controlling your thoughts. When you are alone with your mind, you discover just how undisciplined it can be. Thoughts of doubt creep in. Fears whisper their lies. Memories of past failures replay endlessly. The untrained mind becomes a prison. But the man who learns to command his thoughts, who refuses to entertain doubt, who replaces fear with faith, that man becomes free. You must become ruthless with your mental discipline. When a negative thought enters your mind, you must immediately replace it with a powerful truth. When fear tries to hold you back, you must move forward anyway. When doubt questions your ability, you must answer with action. This is not positive thinking. This is mental warfare. And you must win this battle every single day. The beauty of solitude is that it forces you to develop this discipline. There is no one else to blame for your thoughts. There is no external enemy to fight. It is just you against your own weakness. And in that struggle, you either grow stronger or you remain defeated. There is no middle ground. I have watched men transform their entire lives by mastering this single principle: discipline in solitude. They stopped waiting for others to motivate them. They stopped making excuses. They stopped allowing their circumstances to dictate their actions. Instead, they made a decision. They would show up for themselves every single day, whether anyone noticed or not. And that decision, maintained with unwavering consistency, changed everything. The compound effect of daily discipline is staggering. Think about it. If you improve just 1% every day, if you take one small step toward your goal every single day, if you maintain your standards even when no one is watching, where will you be in a year? In 5 years? In 10 years? You will be so far ahead of the person who only moves when motivated, who only works when watched, who only tries when applauded. This is the power of discipline in solitude. It multiplies your efforts. It turns small actions into massive results. It transforms ordinary men into extraordinary achievers. But it requires one thing that most people are unwilling to give: consistency without recognition. You must learn to love the process, not the applause. You must find satisfaction in the work itself, not in the praise it brings. You must become addicted to growth, not to validation. When you can do this, when you can maintain your discipline in complete solitude, you become a force of nature. Nothing can stop you. Not criticism, not doubt, not failure, not loneliness. Because your power source is internal, and internal power cannot be taken away. Before you can lead others, you must learn to lead yourself. This is not optional. This is not a suggestion. This is an absolute requirement for anyone who wishes to create anything of lasting value. You cannot inspire others to excellence if you have not first demanded it of yourself. You cannot command respect from the world if you do not first respect yourself through disciplined action. Self-leadership begins with a simple question: who is in charge of your life? Is it your emotions? Is it your circumstances? Is it other people's opinions? Or is it you? Most people have surrendered leadership of their own lives to external forces. They react instead of create. They respond instead of initiate. They follow instead of forge their own path. But the man who learns to lead himself takes back that power. Leading yourself means making decisions based on your vision, not your feelings. Feelings are temporary. They change with the weather, with your mood, with what someone said to you 5 minutes ago. But vision is permanent. It is the North Star that guides you through every storm. When you lead yourself from vision, you become consistent. You become reliable. You become powerful. It means creating your own rules and following them with religious devotion. Not rules imposed by society, but rules that align with your purpose. These are your non-negotiables. The standards you will not compromise on regardless of temptation, regardless of convenience, regardless of what others think. When you establish these rules and live by them consistently, you develop an internal authority that radiates outward. Self-leadership also means taking complete responsibility for your results. Not 90%, not 99%, 100%. You cannot blame your parents, your circumstances, your education, your lack of resources. You must look at your life and say, I created this, and if I created this, I can create something better. This is not about guilt. This is about power. When you take full responsibility, you take full control. Think about the great leaders you admire. What made them great? Was it their charisma, their intelligence, their resources? No. What made them great was their ability to lead themselves first. They did not wait for perfect conditions. They created conditions. They did not wait for permission. They took action. They did not wait for others to believe in them. They believed in themselves so strongly that the world had no choice but to follow. Abraham Lincoln led himself through depression, through failure, through criticism that would have destroyed lesser men. He maintained his standards even when his own cabinet doubted him. He held to his principles even when it would have been easier to compromise. That is self-leadership. That is the kind of internal authority that changes nations. When you lead yourself effectively, you make decisions quickly and change them slowly. You do not waver with every new opinion. You do not question your path with every obstacle. You set your course and you hold it with unwavering determination. This consistency builds momentum, and momentum is the most powerful force in achievement. Self-leadership means being your own coach, your own mentor, your own harshest critic and greatest supporter. When you fail, you do not coddle yourself with excuses. You analyze what went wrong, you adjust your approach, and you go again. When you succeed, you do not rest on your laurels. You raise the bar and demand more from yourself. You are never satisfied, yet always content with the process of growth. You must also learn to lead yourself through pain, physical pain, emotional pain, the pain of sacrifice, the pain of discipline, the pain of delayed gratification. Most people avoid pain at all costs, which is why they never achieve anything significant. But the self-led man understands that pain is not the enemy. Comfort is the enemy. Comfort makes you soft. Pain makes you strong. When you feel like quitting, that is when self-leadership matters most. That is when you must look yourself in the mirror and ask, am I the kind of person who gives up when it gets hard, or am I the kind of person who pushes through regardless? Your answer to that question, demonstrated through action, defines your character, and character is destiny. Leading yourself also means protecting your mind from pollution. You must guard what you allow into your consciousness. The news you consume, the conversations you engage in, the content you watch, the people you spend time with, all of these either strengthen your leadership or undermine it. You must be ruthless in eliminating anything that weakens your resolve, clouds your vision, or drains your energy. I want you to understand something crucial. Self-leadership is not natural. It is not easy. It is not the default mode of human behavior. The default is to drift, to follow, to seek the path of least resistance. Self-leadership requires conscious, daily, moment-by-moment decisions to be better than you were, to do more than is required, to give when you could take, to build when you could rest. But here is the reward. The man who masters self-leadership becomes magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who have their life together, who move with purpose, who speak with authority, who execute with precision. You will not need to beg for followers. They will seek you out. Why? Because true leadership is so rare that when people encounter it, they recognize it immediately and want to be part of it. Before you ever lead a team, build a business, or change the world, you must first prove that you can lead the one person who is with you every moment of every day, yourself. Master that, and everything else becomes possible. Now I must tell you about the most profound teacher you will ever have. Silence. Not the silence of an empty room, but the silence of a disciplined mind. The silence that comes when you stop filling every moment with noise, when you stop running from your own thoughts, when you finally sit still long enough to hear the voice of truth that has been trying to reach you all along. Silence is not your enemy. It is your mirror. It reflects back to you the truth about who you are, beneath all the roles you play, all the masks you wear, all the stories you tell yourself. In silence you cannot hide. There is no distraction to numb the pain, no entertainment to avoid the questions, no noise to drown out the doubt. You are forced to face yourself, and that confrontation is either your breaking point or your breakthrough. Most people fear silence because they do not like what they hear. Their mind becomes a battlefield of worry, regret, and anxiety. Old failures replay on loop. Future fears paint catastrophic scenarios. The present moment becomes unbearable because they have never trained their mind to be still, so they run. They turn on the television, they grab their phone, they seek company. Anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. But the wise man, the powerful man, the man who is destined for greatness, he does the opposite. He seeks silence deliberately. He creates space for it in his daily routine. Not because it is comfortable, but because it is necessary. In silence he finds clarity. In stillness he discovers strength. In the absence of external noise, he hears the voice of infinite intelligence guiding him toward his purpose. Silence teaches you things that no book can teach, no mentor can explain, no experience can provide. It teaches you patience. In a world obsessed with speed, silence forces you to slow down, to let things develop in their own time, to trust the process. It teaches you discernment. When you are constantly bombarded with information and opinions, you lose the ability to distinguish truth from lies, but in silence, the truth becomes obvious. It teaches you self-control. The man who can sit in silence without fidgeting, without reaching for his phone, without needing stimulation, that man has mastered himself. He is not a slave to his impulses. He is not controlled by his boredom. He is the master of his own mind, and therefore the master of his life. In silence, you discover that most of what you worry about never happens. You realize that most of the noise in your life is just that, noise. It has no real substance, no lasting impact. You begin to see clearly what truly matters and what is merely distraction. This clarity is priceless. It allows you to focus your energy on what actually moves you forward instead of wasting it on what doesn't matter. Silence also connects you to a power greater than yourself. Call it intuition, call it the subconscious mind, call it God, call it infinite intelligence. Whatever name you give it, there is a source of wisdom available to you that speaks only in silence. When Andrew Carnegie needed an answer, he would sit alone in complete quiet until the solution appeared. When Thomas Edison faced an impossible problem, he would retreat to his thinking room in darkness and silence until inspiration struck. These men understood what most never will. The greatest ideas, the most profound insights, the clearest direction comes not from external sources but from within. But you can only access this inner wisdom when you create the space for it through silence. As long as your mind is filled with noise, chatter, and distraction, you cannot hear the quiet voice of truth. I want you to develop a daily practice of silence. Not meditation in the traditional sense, though that has value. I mean deliberate periods where you sit with yourself, no input, no stimulation, just you and your thoughts. At first, it will be uncomfortable. Your mind will race. You will feel the urge to do something, anything, rather than sit still. But push through that discomfort. As you practice this daily, you will notice a profound shift. Your mind becomes calmer, your thoughts become clearer, your decisions become wiser. You stop reacting to everything and start responding from a place of centered power. You become less affected by external circumstances because you have built an internal fortress of peace that nothing can penetrate. Silence also teaches you the power of restraint. In a world where everyone feels compelled to speak, to share, to broadcast their every thought, the man who knows when to be silent stands out. Silence is not passive, it is strategic. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. Let your actions speak. Let your results do the talking. Let others fill the air with empty words while you fill your life with meaningful work. The man who masters silence becomes dangerous in the best possible way. He is not controlled by his emotions because he has learned to observe them without reacting. He is not swayed by public opinion because he has learned to trust his own inner guidance. He is not distracted by the chaos around him because he has cultivated an inner stillness that nothing can disturb. When you speak, Your words carry weight because you have learned to speak only when you have something worth saying. You do not waste your breath on idle conversation or empty arguments. You do not feel compelled to defend yourself against every criticism or justify yourself to every doubter. You move in silence and let your success make noise. This is the power of silence. It transforms you from a reactor to a creator, from someone who is pushed around by circumstances to someone who shapes circumstances, from someone who needs constant stimulation to someone who generates power from within. Learn to embrace silence, seek it, protect it, use it. In the silence, you will find yourself. And in finding yourself, you will find everything you need to win. Let me tell you something that will change how you see adversity forever. Pain is not punishment. Pain is preparation. Every setback, every failure, every moment of suffering is not the universe working against you. It is the universe working to forge you into someone capable of handling the success you claim to want. Most people run from pain. They avoid discomfort. They seek the easy path. And that is precisely why they remain weak, unfulfilled, and frustrated. They want the rewards of greatness without the price. They want the trophy without the training. They want the transformation without the trial. But it does not work that way. It has never worked that way, and it will never work that way. Pain is the currency of growth. You pay for every level of success with a corresponding level of struggle. The bigger the dream, the bigger the price. The higher you want to climb, the harder the climb becomes. And the man who is not willing to endure pain is a man who is not willing to succeed. When you are alone and facing pain, you have two choices. You can be broken by it, or you can be forged by it. The difference is not in the pain itself, but in your response to it. Do you see it as the end of your story or as a chapter in your becoming? Do you interpret it as evidence that you should quit or as proof that you are being prepared for something greater? Every great man I have studied faced crushing pain. Abraham Lincoln lost his mother, his first love, his children. He suffered from depression so severe that friends worried he might take his own life. Yet he did not let that pain destroy him. He used it to develop a depth of compassion and wisdom that would be required to lead a nation through its darkest hour. The pain did not weaken him, it strengthened him. Thomas Edison's laboratory burned to the ground, destroying years of work and millions of dollars in equipment. His response? There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew. He transformed catastrophic loss into opportunity. That is the mindset of a man who understands that pain is not the end, it is the beginning. When you walk alone through pain, you discover something profound. You are stronger than you thought. The thing you feared would destroy you did not. The blow you thought you could not survive, you survived. And not only did you survive, you grew. You became wiser. You became tougher. You became more capable. But you must actively transform pain into power. This does not happen automatically. Pain left unprocessed becomes bitterness. Failure unexamined becomes shame. Loss unaddressed becomes a wound that never heals. You must take each painful experience and extract the lesson, the strength, the wisdom from it. How do you do this? First, you refuse to avoid pain. When it comes, and it will come, you face it directly. You do not numb it with distractions. You do not drown it with substances. You do not hide from it behind false optimism. You sit with it. You feel it fully. And then you ask, what is this trying to teach me? Every pain has a message. Physical pain tells you something is wrong with your body and you need to address it. Emotional pain tells you something is misaligned in your life and you need to correct it. The pain of failure tells you your approach was wrong and you need to adjust it. The pain of rejection tells you you are seeking validation from the wrong source and you need to find it within. Second, you use pain as fuel. When someone doubts you, let that doubt drive you to prove them wrong through action, not words. When someone betrays you, let that betrayal teach you discernment and strengthen your independence. When life knocks you down, let the memory of lying in the dirt fuel your determination never to stay there again. The man who learns to use pain as fuel becomes unstoppable. Where others see obstacles, he sees opportunity to grow stronger. Where others see reasons to quit, he sees reasons to push harder. Where others see endings, he sees beginnings. This is not positive thinking. This is the practical application of mental alchemy, transforming the base metal of pain into the gold of power. Third, you must document your journey through pain. Write down what you are going through. Record the lessons you are learning. Capture the insights that come in your darkest moments. Why? Because one day, when you have overcome and are standing in your success, you will look back at those words and realize that your pain was not random. It was preparing you. It was building you. It was necessary. And one day, someone else who is walking through pain will need to hear your story. They will need to know that what they are experiencing is not the end, but a phase. They will need the evidence that pain can be transformed into power. Your documented journey will give them hope. But more importantly, it will remind you in future struggles that you have overcome before, and you can overcome again. The truth is this: the depth of your pain determines the height of your rise. You cannot build a skyscraper on a shallow foundation. You cannot become extraordinary through ordinary experiences. The pain you are enduring right now is digging deep, creating the foundation for the success that is coming. Do not waste it by running from it. Do not squander it by refusing to learn from it. When you are alone in your pain, remember this: you are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are not being destroyed. You are being refined. The fire you are in right now is not consuming you. It is purifying you, burning away everything that is not essential, leaving only what is strong, true, and powerful. This is the secret that separates those who win alone from those who fail together. The winner understands that pain is part of the path, not proof that they are on the wrong path. They embrace it, learn from it, and emerge from it transformed. They know that on the other side of every painful experience is a version of themselves that is more capable, more resilient, more powerful. So when pain comes knocking, and you are alone with no one to comfort you, no one to rescue you, no one to tell you it will be okay, that is when you must rise to your highest self. That is when you must look at that pain and say, "You will not break me. You will make me. I will use you. I will learn from you, and I will be stronger because of you." There is a voice within you that knows the truth. It knows when you are lying to yourself. It knows when you are playing small. It knows when you are capable of more but choosing less. Most people spend their lives ignoring this voice, drowning it out with external noise, silencing it with excuses. But the man who learns to listen to this inner voice, to trust it, to obey it, that man finds his path to greatness. This inner voice is not your emotions speaking. Emotions are reactionary, temporary, often misleading. This voice is deeper. It is the part of you that is connected to infinite intelligence, to universal truth, to your highest potential. Some call it intuition, some call it conscience, some call it the voice of God. Whatever name you give it, it is real, and it is always trying to guide you. When you are alone, this voice becomes louder. In the silence, without the distractions of daily life, you can hear it clearly. It tells you what you need to do. It shows you the next step. It warns you when you are off track. It encourages you when you are on the right path. But you must be still enough, quiet enough, disciplined enough to listen. Most people ignore this voice because it tells them things they do not want to hear. It tells them to do the hard thing. It tells them to be patient. It tells them to sacrifice comfort for growth. It tells them to leave the relationship that is draining them. It tells them to quit the job that is killing their soul. It tells them to face the fear they have been avoiding. So they turn up the external noise to drown it out. But you cannot outrun your inner voice. You can ignore it, but you cannot silence it permanently. It will keep speaking. It will keep calling. And every time you ignore it, you pay a price. You lose a little bit of self-trust. You move further from your authentic path. You create internal conflict between who you are and who you are pretending to be. This conflict manifests as anxiety, depression, frustration, a sense that something is wrong even when everything looks right on the surface. The man who wins alone has learned to make peace with his inner voice. He has stopped fighting it, stopped resisting it, stopped pretending he cannot hear it. Instead, he has made a commitment. I will listen to this voice. I will trust this voice. I will act on what this voice tells me, even when it is difficult, even when it makes no sense to my logical mind, even when others think I am crazy. This is not blind faith. This is earned trust. You start small. Your inner voice tells you to wake up early. You do it. It tells you to skip the junk food. You obey. It tells you to have that difficult conversation. You follow through. Each time you act on its guidance and see positive results, your trust grows. You begin to understand that this voice is not trying to limit you. It is trying to liberate you. The inner voice always calls you toward your highest good. It never tells you to take the shortcut, to compromise your integrity, to betray your values. It calls you to be more, to do more, to become the fullest expression of your potential. But it requires sacrifice. It requires you to let go of comfort, security, and the approval of others. That is why most people ignore it. They are not willing to pay the price it demands. When you are alone and you hear this voice, you have no excuse not to listen. There is no one else's opinion to consider, no one else's expectations to meet, no one else's path to compare yours to. It is just you and the truth of what you know you must do. This is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because you can no longer hide behind others. Liberating because you are finally free to be who you truly are. I want you to develop a daily practice of listening to your inner voice. Set aside time, even just 10 minutes, where you sit in silence and ask yourself, what am I supposed to do? What is my next step? What am I avoiding that I need to face? What truth am I refusing to acknowledge? Then be quiet and listen, not with your ears, but with your deeper awareness. The answer will come. It may not come immediately, but it will come. When the answer arrives, you will know it. It will resonate as truth. It will feel both challenging and right. It will align with your deepest values, even if it contradicts your surface desires. And here is the critical part. You must act on it. You must trust it enough to follow through. Because every time you act on the guidance of your inner voice, you strengthen that connection. Every time you ignore it, you weaken it. The inner voice does not shout. It speaks in whispers. It communicates through subtle feelings, quiet knowing, gentle nudges. This is why you must create silence in your life. This is why you must learn to be alone without distraction. In the noise, you cannot hear it. But in the silence, it becomes unmistakable. As you develop this relationship with your inner voice, something profound happens. You stop looking outside yourself for answers. You stop asking everyone else what you should do. You stop reading every self-help book looking for the secret. You realize the secret was never hidden. It was always within you, speaking to you, guiding you. You just were not listening. The man who trusts his inner voice becomes unshakable. He does not need external validation because he has internal confirmation. He does not doubt his path because he knows it is uniquely his. He does not compare himself to others because he understands they are on a different journey. He walks alone, but he is never lost because he carries within him an infallible guide. This inner voice will lead you to places you never imagined. It will show you opportunities you would have missed. It will warn you of dangers you could not have predicted. It will connect you with the right people at the right time. It will reveal your true purpose when you are ready to receive it. But only if you listen. Only if you trust. Only if you act. The greatest tragedy is not failure. It is living your entire life ignoring the voice that was trying to lead you to your destiny. Do not let that be your story. Starting today, commit to listening. Commit to trusting. Commit to following the guidance of your inner voice, even when it leads you into the unknown, especially when it leads you into the unknown, because that is where your greatness awaits. Independence is not just freedom from others. It is freedom from the need for others. There is a profound difference. Many people are physically alone, but mentally still enslaved by the opinions, expectations, and approval of those around them. They may walk alone, but they are still shackled. True independence is internal. It is the state of mind where you need nothing from anyone to feel complete, confident, or capable. This kind of independence is rare because it is difficult to achieve. From birth, we are conditioned to seek approval. As children, we learned that love and acceptance were conditional on our behavior. As adults, we continue this pattern, constantly seeking validation from our achievements, our appearance, our status. We measure our worth by external metrics because we were never taught to find it within. But the man who wins alone must break free from this conditioning. He must reach a point where he no longer needs applause to keep moving, no longer needs agreement to know he is right, no longer needs permission to pursue his vision. He becomes self-sufficient, not just financially or physically, but emotionally and mentally. This does not mean you become cold or isolated. It does not mean you reject all help or connection. It means you build yourself so completely that help becomes a choice, not a necessity. Connection becomes a joy, not a requirement. You engage with others from a place of strength, not need. You give freely because you are full, not because you hope to receive something in return. The foundation of true independence is self-reliance. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote that self-reliance is its aversion. What he meant was that when you truly rely on yourself, you become repulsive to dependence. You cannot tolerate weakness in yourself because you have tasted the power of standing on your own feet. You cannot accept excuses because you have proven that obstacles can be overcome through will and persistence. Self-reliance is built through repeated acts of solving your own problems. Every time you face a challenge and work through it without calling for help, you grow stronger. Every time you feel fear and move forward anyway, you expand your capacity. Every time you stand alone in your convictions despite opposition, you reinforce your independence. These small victories accumulate into unshakable strength. But understand this: independence does not mean isolation. The man who wins alone is not running from connection. He is creating the conditions where connection can be genuine rather than transactional. When you need nothing from others, you can finally see them clearly. You can appreciate them without agenda. You can love them without condition. You can help them without expectation of return. This is the paradox of independence. The less you need others, the more valuable your relationships become, because they are chosen freely, not maintained out of fear or need. The friendships you form from a place of independence are deeper, more authentic, more enduring than any relationship built on dependency. Financial independence is part of this equation, though not all of it. A man who must rely on others for his economic survival is never truly free. He must compromise his values to keep his job. He must silence his truth to maintain his position. He must play politics to secure his future. This is a form of slavery, even if it is gilded with a comfortable salary. The path to financial independence requires the same principles as emotional independence: self-reliance, discipline, delayed gratification, and strategic thinking. You must learn to create value, to manage resources wisely, to invest in assets rather than liabilities. You must build multiple streams of income so that no single source of money has power over you. This is not about greed, this is about freedom. But even more important than financial independence is mental independence. This is the ability to think for yourself, to form your own opinions, to question authority, to challenge conventional wisdom. Most people are mental slaves. They believe what they are told to believe. They think what they are told to think. They want what they are told to want. They have outsourced their thinking to others and wonder why they feel lost. Mental independence requires courage. It requires you to stand alone in your thinking when everyone else is going in a different direction. It requires you to trust your own judgment even when experts disagree. It requires you to be willing to be wrong, to change your mind when presented with new evidence, but never to change your mind simply because others pressure you to do so. I am not telling you to be stubborn or closed-minded. I am telling you to develop your own framework for evaluating truth. Read widely, study deeply, think critically, question everything, including what I am telling you right now. Do not accept any idea simply because it sounds good or because someone you respect said it. Test it. Examine it. See if it produces results in your life. Only then should you adopt it as true. The mentally independent man is dangerous to systems that rely on conformity. He cannot be manipulated through fear because he thinks for himself. He cannot be controlled through propaganda because he questions the narrative. He cannot be bought because his values are not for sale. This is why true mental independence is so rare. Society does not encourage it. It actively discourages it. But if you want to win alone, you must develop this independence. You must become the kind of person who makes decisions based on principle rather than pressure, who acts based on conviction rather than consensus, who speaks truth even when it costs you popularity, position, or profit. This is not easy, but it is essential. Independence also means taking full responsibility for your life. No blaming, no excusing, no victim mentality. You are where you are because of the decisions you have made and the actions you have taken. If you do not like where you are, you have the power to change it. But that power only activates when you stop blaming external circumstances and start focusing on what you can control. When you embrace this level of responsibility, you become free. Free from the need to complain, free from the desire to blame, free from the weakness of making excuses. You simply look at your current reality, decide what you want it to be, and take action to close the gap. This is the ultimate expression of independence, the recognition that you are the author of your own story. As you build this independence, you will notice others react to it in different ways. Some will be inspired by your strength. They will want to learn from you, to understand how you develop such self-sufficiency. Others will be threatened by it. They will try to pull you back into dependence, to make you doubt yourself, to convince you that you need them. You must learn to discern between the two and protect your independence fiercely. The independent man walks a solitary path at times. There are decisions only he can make. There are battles only he can fight. There are nights when he must face his fears alone, days when he must solve problems without help, moments when he must stand for his beliefs without support. But every time he does this, every time he proves to himself that he can handle it alone, he becomes more powerful. This is not about pride. This is not about refusing help when it would be wise to accept it. This is about building yourself so completely that you become your own foundation, so that when help arrives, it is a blessing but not a requirement, so that when support is given, you receive it with gratitude but not desperation, so that when you must stand alone, you can do so without fear or hesitation. True independence is internal freedom. It is the state where your peace does not depend on your circumstances. Your confidence does not depend on others' approval. Your direction does not depend on external validation. You have built an internal fortress that cannot be shaken by the storms of life. And from that fortress, you can engage with the world from a position of strength rather than need. I have saved the most important principle for last: persistence, not talent, not intelligence, not resources, not connections, persistence. The unwavering commitment to continue despite obstacles, despite failures, despite every reason to quit. This is the quality that separates those who win from those who merely wish. When you walk alone, persistence is not optional. It is your only weapon. There is no one to carry you when you are tired, no one to encourage you when you are discouraged, no one to remind you why you started when you want to give up. It is just you and your decision to continue. This is the ultimate test, and most people fail it. The world is filled with talented failures, men and women who had every advantage, every opportunity, every reason to succeed, and yet did not because they lacked persistence. They started strong. They had initial success. But when the inevitable setbacks came, when the road became difficult, when results did not come as quickly as expected, they quit. They gave up on their dreams and settled for less than they were capable of. Then there are those who had nothing, no advantages, no support, no resources. Yet they persisted, and their persistence overcame every disadvantage. Abraham Lincoln failed in business, lost elections, suffered defeat after defeat, but he never stopped. Thomas Edison tried 10,000 times before succeeding. He did not see these as failures. He saw them as necessary steps toward success. His persistence made him immortal. What is persistence? It is the refusal to accept defeat as final. It is the commitment to try again, to adjust your approach, to find another way forward no matter how many times you fall. It is the determination to see your goal achieved or die trying. Not dramatic death, but the daily death of giving up your comfort, your excuses, your right to quit. Persistence is not stubbornness. Stubbornness is continuing to do the same thing expecting different results. Persistence is continuing toward the same goal while being willing to change your methods. The persistent man learns from failure. He adjusts, he adapts, but he never abandons his objective. He may change his route, but he never changes his destination. The power of persistence lies in its cumulative effect. One day of effort produces little. 1 week shows small progress. 1 month begins to reveal possibilities. But 1 year of relentless persistence, 1 year of showing up every single day regardless of how you feel, regardless of the results, regardless of the obstacles, that produces miracles. Most people quit too soon. They are 3 feet from gold, as Napoleon Hill wrote, but they put down their pickaxe and walk away. They do not realize that breakthrough was just around the corner, that success was about to arrive, that all their efforts were about to pay off. They quit in the final mile of the race. They surrendered just before victory was theirs. Why do people quit? Because they are tired, because they are discouraged, because they have lost faith, because they see no evidence that their efforts are working, because others have told them to give up, because the pain of continuing seems greater than the pain of quitting. But they are wrong. The pain of quitting is far greater. It is the pain of knowing you gave up on yourself. The pain of living with what if for the rest of your life. When you walk alone and face the temptation to quit, you must remind yourself why you started. You must reconnect with the vision that set you on this path. You must feel again the burning desire that once drove you forward. That desire, that definite purpose, is the fuel for persistence. Without it, you will not last. With it, you cannot be stopped. Persistence also requires faith. Not blind faith, but faith based on principle. The faith that the universe rewards effort. The faith that natural laws operate with precision. The faith that if you continue to sow, you must eventually reap. This faith is not given. It is built through small experiences of cause and effect, of effort leading to results, of persistence paying off. Every time you persist through difficulty and reach your goal, you build this faith. You prove to yourself that persistence works, and that proof becomes the foundation for even greater persistence in the future. This is why you must start with small challenges. Develop the habit of persistence on minor obstacles so that when major obstacles come, persistence is already ingrained in your character. The persistent man develops a specific mindset. He sees obstacles as temporary. He sees failure as feedback. He sees delay as preparation. He interprets every setback as the universe testing his commitment, strengthening his resolve, preparing him for greater success. He does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "What is this teaching me? How is this making me stronger?" This mindset shift is everything. 2 people can face the same obstacle. One sees a reason to quit. The other sees a reason to persist. The difference is not in the obstacle, but in their interpretation of it. The man who wins alone has trained himself to interpret every experience in a way that empowers him rather than defeats him. Let me give you a practice for building persistence. Every day, do something difficult, something you do not want to do but know you should. It does not have to be related to your main goal. It just needs to be hard. Take a cold shower. Do extra repetitions in your workout. Read when you would rather scroll. Make that difficult phone call. Have that uncomfortable conversation. Each time you do the hard thing, you are building your persistence muscle. Over time, this practice transforms you. You become someone who does not shy away from difficulty. You become someone who faces challenges head-on. You become someone who keeps promises to yourself even when it hurts. This is the character of persistence. And character is built through daily decisions, not one-time acts of heroism. Persistence also requires patience. Results take time. Seeds do not become trees overnight. Investments do not compound immediately. Skills do not develop without practice. You must be patient with the process while remaining persistent in the effort. This combination of patience and persistence is rare, which is why those who develop it are virtually guaranteed success. When you feel like giving up, when every fiber of your being wants to quit, I want you to remember this. The moment you feel like quitting is often the moment just before breakthrough. The darkest hour is just before dawn. The final test comes right before the victory. If you quit now, you will never know how close you were. But if you persist, if you take just one more step, make just one more attempt, endure just one more day, you might discover that success was waiting just beyond your current vision. The man who wins alone understands that persistence is not about being the strongest or the smartest or the most talented. It is about being the last one standing. It is about outlasting the competition, outlasting the obstacles, outlasting your own doubts. Persistence is the ultimate equalizer. It allows ordinary men to achieve extraordinary results simply by refusing to quit. So I say to you now, persist. When you are tired, persist. When you are discouraged, persist. When you fail, persist. When others quit, persist. When logic tells you to give up, persist. When emotion screams at you to stop, persist. Persist through the pain, persist through the doubt, persist through the loneliness, persist until you win. Because the truth is this: if you persist long enough, intelligently enough, faithfully enough, you cannot fail. Success is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And when you combine persistence with purpose, with discipline, with faith, with all the principles I have shared with you, you become an unstoppable force. You become the man who wins alone. And once you have won alone, once you have proven to yourself that you need nothing and no one to succeed, you will discover something beautiful. You are now ready to win with others, but from a position of strength, not need, from wholeness, not brokenness, from power, not desperation. We have covered much ground together, from the power of isolation to the practice of discipline, from self-leadership to the voice within, from independence to persistence. These are not separate principles. They are interconnected truths that form a complete philosophy of how to succeed when you have nothing and no one but yourself. The man who wins alone is not antisocial. He is not bitter. He is not running from people. He has simply learned that his power comes from within, not from without. He has discovered that he possesses everything he needs to succeed in his own mind, his own character, his own determination. And because he knows this, he can engage with the world from a place of strength rather than weakness. This man walks differently. He speaks differently. He carries himself with a quiet confidence that needs no announcement. Others sense it immediately. They feel the power of someone who has conquered himself, who needs nothing from them, who is complete within himself. Some are drawn to this power. Others are threatened by it. He is unmoved by both responses. The man who wins alone has paid a price. He has endured loneliness that would break weaker men. He has faced fears that would paralyze others. He has pushed through obstacles that would stop most people. He has persisted when every rational reason told him to quit. And through this crucible, he has been forged into something rare and valuable, a self-made man. This does not mean he did it entirely without help. Wisdom comes from many sources. Opportunities arise through connections. Resources flow through relationships. But the difference is this: he did not depend on these things. He used them when available, but never allowed their absence to stop him. He built his success on the foundation of his own efforts, his own choices, his own character. The journey of winning alone is not easy. In fact, it may be the hardest path you ever walk. There will be times when you question whether it is worth it. Times when you envy those who have support, partnership, companionship. Times when the loneliness cuts so deep you wonder if you can continue. But I promise you this: if you persist through these dark valleys, you will emerge on the other side transformed. You will discover capabilities within yourself you never knew existed. You will develop strength that surprises even you. You will build a foundation so solid that nothing can shake it. And you will gain something priceless: unshakable confidence in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. Because once you have won alone, once you have proven to yourself that you can succeed without help, without support, without anyone believing in you except yourself, you are free. Free from the fear of abandonment, free from the need for approval, free from the prison of other people's opinions. You have become your own source of strength, your own source of motivation, your own source of belief. And here is what happens next. Success finds you. Not because you chased it desperately, not because you compromised yourself to get it, but because you built yourself into someone worthy of it. You became the kind of person that success naturally gravitates toward. You developed the character, the discipline, the persistence, the independence that success requires. The world begins to notice. Opportunities appear. The right people enter your life. Resources become available. But by this time, you are not desperate for any of it. You are grateful, yes. You accept it, yes. But you do not need it to feel complete because you have already proven you can win alone. This is the ultimate paradox. The moment you prove you do not need anyone is the moment everyone wants to be part of your journey. The moment you become complete within yourself is the moment the world offers you everything you once begged for. The moment you win alone is the moment you are ready to win with others. So if you find yourself alone right now, if you feel isolated, unsupported, doubted, abandoned, do not despair. This is not punishment. This is preparation. You are being forged in the fires of solitude. You are being tested to see if you have what it takes. You are being prepared for a level of success that requires the kind of strength only solitude can build. Embrace this time. Use it. Let it shape you into someone unbreakable. Let it build in you a foundation that nothing can shake. Let it teach you that you possess within yourself everything you need to succeed. Let it prove to you that you can win alone. And when you do, when you finally stand victorious, having achieved what you set out to achieve, having become who you set out to become, having done it without the crutch of constant support, without the luxury of partnership, without the comfort of companionship, you will look back on this time of walking alone as the most valuable time of your life. Because that is when you discovered your true power. That is when you learned you could trust yourself. That is when you proved you were capable of far more than you ever imagined. That is when you transformed from someone who needed the world to believe in them into someone who believed in themselves regardless of what the world thought. The man who wins alone carries a secret. He knows something the crowd does not. He knows that all power comes from within. He knows that external circumstances have no power over internal strength. He knows that success is not about being the most talented or the most connected or the luckiest. It is about being the most persistent, the most disciplined, the most committed to your own growth. Walk alone if you must. Stand alone if necessary. Fight alone when required, but never, ever give up on yourself. Never abandon your dreams because others have abandoned you. Never quit your journey because you must walk it solo. The greatest victories are often won by those who had to fight every step of the way, without help, without support, without anyone believing in them. You are being prepared for something great. The isolation you feel today is building the strength you will need tomorrow. The loneliness you endure now is developing the self-reliance you will require later. The battles you fight alone today are training you for the wars you will lead tomorrow. So stand tall, walk with purpose, move with determination, speak with conviction, act with courage, and never forget, you were built to win, not with help, not with support, not with advantage. You were built to win alone, and once you do, once you prove to yourself that you can, the world will never look the same again. Because you will have become the rarest kind of person, someone who needs nothing from anyone to be complete, confident, and capable. Someone who has faced themselves in the mirror of solitude and liked what they saw. Someone who has walked through the fire alone and emerged, not burned but forged. That person is who you are becoming right now. That person is emerging through every lonely night, every difficult day, every moment when you chose to keep going even though you had to walk alone. That person is the man who wins alone, and that person is unstoppable. Now go, walk your path, face your fears, build your strength, prove to yourself what you are capable of. And one day, when you stand at the summit of your own achievement, you will know with absolute certainty that you earned every single step, because you won alone.
That's all for today. If you found value in this message, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to this channel, and turning on notifications so you never miss our daily releases. Take action today. Your future self will thank you.